And there's a big story surfacing around the NFL right now about who's going where. And Ian Rappaport had told us this since the very beginning, that there were teams interested in Deshaun Watson. We were all mind blown. We were all flabbergasted. We had no idea how or why, especially with 26 very serious or 22 very serious allegations happening off the field. We are all very much on the mindset that that has to get handled before anything on the field can be handled, because why and how would you be able to focus on football with this serious of shit happening in real life? Then as the world continued to unfold and the days continued to go by, he wasn't placed on the commissioner's exemption list. He was at practice. He still didn't want to be there. He wasn't playing. He's still on the team. That he's not on the team. The allegations have not gone away. Allegedly, the NFL did an investigation. Who knows? Last night, it got real hot on the internet that Deshaun was going to Miami. This all started with John McClain. Who's been around long time down there in the Houston Chronicle. He said that the Texans-Dolphins could have a Deshaun Watson deal done this week.
Whoa!
AJ, the internet was abuzz immediately upon this being announced, obviously.
When you first read it, you're like, oh, okay, he's there. Like, they made the trade. This already happened. Then you look and you start to see, like, what they're mentioning, like 3-team deals and all of this stuff.
Bingo.
But there has to be, like, John McClain's been doing this forever. So there obviously is something to this. They've been working on this. Like, do you think it gets done?
Okay, so John McClain has been around Houston forever. He knows people. Here's to your point. Here's Cody M. Davis, also from Houston, at Cody Davis _24. In regards to the Texans closing in on a deal that would send Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins, I am hearing that it could be a 3-team deal that would send Tua to the Washington football team, Deshaun to Miami, and then who knows what else would happen on the back end for the Texans to get something back in return. And they said they wanted, 3 players and a pick or something like that was the initial asking. So then you start seeing tweets from people outside of Houston that immediately start saying, I'm being told no chance. This is not happening. This is not true. Tua to Washington, somebody tweeted. We're hearing, JP Finley, at JP Finley, NBCS. All right, JP. Got a hard no when I checked on the Washington's interest in Tua. It's all BS. Okay, so Washington allegedly out now, if you listen to JP Finley, who once again is a reporter outside of Houston that is reporting about the trade that could potentially happen. There was others that said they heard nothing. Somebody in Denver tweeted something about, Marcel Louis Jacques.
Yep, boom, nailed it.
Oui. Marcel Louis Jacques. NFL landscape is fluid, but in regard to trades involving Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, and Deshaun Watson, a source close to the situation texts me, rumors are false. So who's leaking information to John McClain, who's been around a long time? Why are they leaking that information? Who benefits from that information being leaked? Is this real? Maybe. This has been talked about for the last couple weeks. Still, once again, makes no sense to any of us because all the serious shit happening off the field, but it sounds like Houston's given information that something's happening. Why would they want to do that? Maybe it makes their fans appreciate them more. Maybe it makes the league look like, hey, we are interested in shopping. Maybe they're putting that information out. Miami, Washington, who knows what they're leaking, AJ? We don't know shit about fuck right now about anything, it feels like, AJ.
I mean, that sums it up perfectly, I think, when we look at this situation, especially the fact that we don't know Deshaun Watson, his legal situation. Is the league going to suspend him? Like, do we have any idea what that looks like? And couldn't it be that, the Dolphins are trying to trade Tua. They would love to have Deshaun Watson, but there's not a whole lot of teams jumping out there trying to give much to get Tua.
Okay, so Tua, obviously, who knows how that thing goes? Because if you're
damage is done already for the Dolphins. If they want to salvage and think that Tua is their guy, like, damage is already done.
Well, this was leaked weeks ago, and we got buried by Dolphins fans as it being all bullshit. And by the way, this might still all be bullshit because
there's no way it's 100% garbage. There has to have been something. People have been looking into this at some point in the front offices.
Remember, the owner allegedly said hey, I want Deshaun Watson or whatever, and it gets even more conflicted because Howie Roseman, I don't know if he was on record or he told somebody who went on to a radio show in Philly. Howie Roseman was interested in Deshaun Watson, so much so they sent an investigator down to Houston and then to talk to the NFL about everything going on and talk to Deshaun's legal team. And then it ultimately, Deshaun didn't want to play in Philadelphia. So that's alleged, another story that's coming out. So Philadelphia, Howie Roseman, and who knows how we feel about Howie Roseman.
Right.
I don't know anything about Howie Roseman. I know There's a lot of conversation outside about Howie Roseman. I've never met the dude. Seems like he does have a building that was on fire. Will they be able to put it out? Maybe, who knows? I don't know that whole thing. But if he sent an investigator down to talk to the legal team and also around Houston is how it was portrayed in the quote or whatever, what does that mean to everything that's going on off the field for Deshaun? Has Deshaun played football? Like, has he played football in a while? Because if you're trading Tua out in Miami, that means Deshaun's starting week 1. I don't think he's played in, 8, 9 weeks, 10 weeks? Has he done anything? It's a wild situation that I assume we'll watch unfold here.
Ian, what about the reports that were popping up last night about Deshaun Watson heading to Miami to possibly a 3-team deal? Is there anything like that you've heard?
We'll start with the Tua part of it. I don't see any 3-team deal happening. I don't even know if there's ever been one in the history of the NFL. It would be fun, but that seems more like an NBA/fantasy thing. I also, from what I can tell, believe the Dolphins have not made any calls at all as far as potentially shopping Tua. Like, they don't even know if they're going to get Deshaun Watson, so why would they make any calls to shop Tua? Tua might be their quarterback for the rest of the season. If they do end up getting Deshaun Watson, Tua probably also plays for them anyway for a variety of reasons. I don't know. I would be very surprised if they have done any homework on that, so I certainly don't think a 3-team trade is happening.
How come Houston folks are reporting that the trade is a done deal and then everybody outside of Houston saying anything differently? Do you think potentially the Texans organization is trying to float some information that people are getting interested because the trade deadline's coming up and they're trying to make a play?
I don't see why they would need to. I mean, there is interest in Deshaun Watson. That interest has been steady. There's a couple teams, and it's sort of the teams we've talked about. And I think let's focus on the Miami Dolphins because that was the one that was rumored most in those, reports yesterday. Nothing's done. Nothing's imminent. I know the two sides have talked. This is probably the 4th time that things have heated up and everyone has sort of thought that a trade might happen. And I'm not saying a trade's not going to happen. I'm just saying I don't sense it's imminent at all. It is incredibly complicated. There's the legal, the civil, the compensation, the no trade clause. This is happening at like a snail's pace if it happens. So I saw the reports yesterday and it definitely made me go, wait, is there something I don't know? Because that happens sometimes, believe it or not. But I don't sense anything imminent right now.
Okay, so let's talk about what Howie Roseman allegedly said to somebody. This was another source that said something. Howie Roseman allegedly sent an investigator down to Houston and spoke with Deshaun's legal team and other things like that. And ultimately, in the end, Deshaun did not want to go to Philadelphia. Would that report coming out indicate that maybe off the field things are wrapping up for Deshaun? Because I still don't understand how anybody would be able to trade their franchise to get Deshaun Watson with everything happening off the field. The Howie Roseman alleged source conversation, and I forget where it was. I think we could probably find who actually broke that information. Allegedly, Howie sent an investigator down there and was still interested. What does that say, and is that real?
I can't independently corroborate that, but the Eagles are among the most sort of aggressive, I don't know how to really describe it, but among the most aggressive in investigating things. Like, I am constantly hearing stories of, hey, the Eagles sent their security team, the Eagles sent their investigator. Like, they are very, very proactive. So if that happened, that would definitely make sense. And I think a lot of the teams interested, probably all the teams interested, did the due diligence. If you are going to trade for Deshaun Watson, you would have to be extremely, extremely comfortable in the person and in his culpability and everything that happened. There are still teams interested in trading for Deshaun Watson. So I don't know what's going to happen legally, civilly. Could something get wrapped up? Obviously, it would make sense if a trade would happen for that to be wrapped up, but it's so complicated that I don't know that anything is done at all now. I just know there are teams still interested despite everything that has gone on and all the headlines off the field.
Do you know how that process works? Like, let's say a team is interested in trading for Deshaun Watson. Do they contact the league first and try to get some kind of feel on what's going to happen with him?
Yes, probably yes. And I don't know.
Is the league obligated to give him information or tell him anything?
They're not obligated, but if, I would assume it would be an owner calling Roger Goodell, like that's really who Goodell works with / works for, right? So you'd think he would be honest about it. But here's the problem. the NFL has not spoken to Deshaun Watson yet, and they're not going to until the police investigation, the criminal investigation, wraps itself up. So whatever the NFL would tell, let's say, an owner, they don't know because they haven't finished their investigation.
They sent Amy down there. Amy what was her name?
That was Lisa.
Lisa Friel.
Lisa Friel.
Lisa Friel. Yeah. Lisa Friel. They sent somebody. Didn't the NFL send somebody down there to investigate, and then it hasn't wrapped up its investigation, so they can't give the full opinion because the investigation hasn't ended yet?
They've done several interviews with the alleged victims, and they have not talked to Deshaun, and they have not wrapped up the entire thing because the NFL, one, a lot of times, they're not going to sort of ruin or whatever a police investigation. They're going to wait till that's done and talk to Deshaun then. So it's going to, and that's one of the problems is if, there are some things that theoretically could wrap up by the time like a settlement, perhaps by the trade deadline. If that happens, and I don't know that it is, but if it happens, that would make it easier. But there's also something like there's a deposition that Deshaun is scheduled to, I believe, speak at in like February. So these things take forever.
After the season, yeah, it's insane, especially with how serious the allegations are. That's why it's crazy to think that there is teams that are still interested, and if they know anything, what do they know? How come we don't know that stuff? If you're Deshaun, you would at least think that you would want to get some of that information out if it favors him, because PR-wise, this is terrible, and it sounds like he's potentially a terrible human being, but who knows how it all ends up.